This is Alex Rodriguez from Secure Ideas / Professionally Evil, and today we're going to be going over Bash Aliases, or the title for the week, Aliases for Days. And the reason why it's Aliases for Days is because knowing and being able to utilize Bash Aliases can greatly improve your workflow, and I use it daily, so for days. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get into the code after we went to the latest release, just to show you where we're at. And now, week 4, Aliases for Days, and the prereqs is, as always, the bash setup video / instructions. And now we're going to get into why bash aliases are important. 1, they make life easier. Being able to not have to remember every single switch or chain of commands that are very useful for being able to operate and do different types of operations makes life a lot easier, specifically for me. I have this one command that's actually probably 60 characters long, and it uses AWS's CLI to pull all of our active instances and pull all the IP addresses from AWS's CLI. And it's literally probably at least 60 characters long. So me not having to remember that and having to type that every single time or search through my bash history, and all I have to do is just tab complete for my personal or my work commands, and being able to identify exactly where it's at, and it just copies it directly into my clipboard, is very nice and makes my life a lot easier. So nested commands are bae. Essentially being able to nest different aliases inside of other aliases, so that way you're not having to duplicate work, and I say automate your automation, but essentially being able to reuse your work from aliases into other aliases is really useful, so that way you don't have to build out that work that you've already made into a smaller module into reduplicate that work into another alias command. So that's really useful. And then third, there's possibly an attack vector for red teamers / operators, or offensive operators, and we'll get into that in a little bit as to how you can use it for malicious gains. And then from a blue team perspective of how to thwart whenever attackers are trying to use it for malicious reasons. So I'm going to go ahead and get into our terminal. As you can see, I've already provisioned my VM, and it's already up, and I'm connected. So we'll go ahead and split these so that way it's easier. We're going to start out with getting into the container, and we can do help. And the reason why I'm showing this is because the next command that we do, help attack D, the one thing that's nice about this is that it says pattern. We'll eventually talk about patterns and globbing, essentially being able to match multiple strings with a single character. But we're going to go ahead and search for all of the built-in bash commands that match the word or some form of the word of alias, and you'll see in a second why I did this. So as you can see, it matches the word alias, but it also matches the word unalias as well. And alias definer removes or definer displays aliases, and then unalias removes each name from the list of defined aliases. So we're going to just do help alias and do that again. And so define aliases, it kind of gives you an example, and then tells you the exit status. And then the tac p flag, or -p, it shows that you can print all of the defined aliases. So we're going to go ahead and do that to see if there are any aliases defined in our environment currently. Currently they're not, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that if we do, if we go back down to the VirtualBox machine, or the Vagrant machine, we do alias tag p here, you can see that there are different aliases configured, and the one that you use to get into the Bash Docker container is an alias as well. So you can see everything's defined right here. So now we're going to get back into the Docker container, and we're going to ls.tech help, and we're going to pipe that into less. I hate whenever programs do this. So apparently LS's help is getting redirected to standard error, and so what we're going to do is, instead of just pipe, we're going to do pipe ampersand, and that'll capture std out and std error. We'll talk more in depth about what these two different things are later. But for right now, this is the help section for ls, and we're going to focus mainly on the tac lowercase a and the tac uppercase a. And if you look at the help section for the uppercase a, it says like the lowercase a, but excludes dot and dot dot. Dot and dot dot are relative directories inside of the Linux file structure. So they're in, from my understanding, every single folder except for dot dot, I don't believe, is in slash, which is the very root of the file system. So to give you an example, what we're going to do is we're going to do ls tag a, and you can see it's got all of these different things, but it's got the dot dot and the dot. So now if we do ls tag a without, or with it being the uppercase, you can see that it removed those. So this is a common alias that a lot of Linux distros, from my experience, create. Is they create the LA alias, and as we showed before, it's not defined in our environment, so we're going to go ahead and define it. So we're going to do alias LA equals ls tag a. And normally in some other Linux distros, what they'll probably do is some colorization and some other things as well. So we do this, and then we do the LA to go ahead and show you that it actually works. And then we're going to look at the alias as defined again, just to show you that it's now defined. And we're going to unalias this now, because as we saw before, whenever we're looking at the brief version of each of their help page, it was used to remove aliases. So now whenever we do the alias tag p, you can see that it's no longer there. And if we do LA again, it says command not found. So that's a really quick setup of a useful alias for Bash, and being able to quickly navigate and find a list of all the different directories. But Bash aliases can also be used for malicious purposes. I actually competed in a competition in college called the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, and while it didn't happen to me, I had heard horror stories of people doing awful things like aliasing ls to rm tac rf tac tac no preserve root. So whenever you would go to list your normal directory, it would then just delete the entire system without prompting the user for if they were sure if they wanted to remove it. So that's really bad, and I mean, if you can think of a chain of bash commands to do, you can do them inside of aliases, so you can get as malicious as possible, or as malicious as possible as allowed on the system. So we're going to, since we're in a Docker container, it's really easy to just destroy the environment and pull it back up. And we're going to go ahead and show an example of the malicious ls command. So alias ls to rmtechrf, and the slash is the root of the directory. So now, as you can see, we did ls, and yeah, we just removed a lot of stuff from our system. So if you, I'll show you in a second how this, well, actually here, we'll go ahead and type the exit command, and then now that we've typed the exit command, if we do pe bash again to try and get back into our environment, yeah, we really screwed up this container. So also, since we had a folder mounted inside of the container, we actually deleted things on the actual host operating system as well. Well, not host, but inside the VM. So if we do an ls tap a for bash tricks, which is normally this the GitHub repo for this project that gets pulled down, we can see that there's nothing there. So we're going to remove that directory really quick. We're going to exit outside of Vagrant, and we're going to do Vagrant provision, and then we're going to do Vagrant SSH, and then it should quickly provision the system, so because it doesn't have to pull down Docker at all. So it provisioned it, which, as you can see right here, it says cloning into bash tricks. So if we do ls type a now on the bash tricks directory, it's fixed. But if we do the pe bash again, we can see that that actually did not fix our container. So one of the other aliases that I have built in, which we can do the alias tag p again, is the, so there's the pe bash, but then there's also a pe cleanup. So we can do pe cleanup. And the other thing you could do to try and enumerate this as well is do the pe hyphen and then tab, just to show what possible commands there are. So we do pe cleanup, that removes our container, then we do pe bash, and that drops us into a new Docker container. And now, if we do a ls, it's not aliased, and we can validate that with the alias tag p that we had used earlier. So now how to prevent that? So we're going to go ahead and find the help page for unalias, and as we saw before, remove each name. But one of the extra switches is a tac a, which removes all alias definitions. So say we have that malicious alias again, and we do alias tac p to go ahead and show that it's defined. If we do the backwhack or backslash character, and then we do unalias, well, actually, sorry, if we do backwhack, that character actually tells it to not use any aliases associated with the following command. So if we do backwhack ls, it doesn't normal ls. So to ensure someone hasn't aliased the unalias command to something else, we do backwhack unalias, so that way they didn't possibly map an alias for unalias to something like rmtechrf. We do backwhack unalias and then tac a, and then if we do alias tac p, it's no longer defined. So if we do ls regularly, we get a regular ls. So that goes through very quickly how to use aliases, why they're important, how they can be used for malicious reasons, and also how to defend against them getting used for malicious reasons. So we'll go back to the GitHub repo page, and this is an example of me nesting different commands. Whenever I use the Vagrant command, there are a lot of repetitive commands that you use with Vagrant, so I alias a lot of the commands, and we'll go ahead and show you that real quick. So Vagrant files, and then we go to Bash Aliases, and we can see there's a bunch of different commands. So we've got Vagrant up, and this is a work in progress because I'm actually working on a method to ensure that my Vagrant files don't get tampered with. So I'm doing some SHA summing and some other things, and that's still a work in progress, but essentially, just to show you, I've got the vconnect alias defined, and then after almost every single command I have vconnect defined, and so that will do all of that SHA summing and stuff like that to ensure that whatever environment I'm getting into is not tampered with after it's already gone ahead and done all the different other types of commands, so like destroying the new environment and updating it, and then vconnect will make it come up and then connect to it as well. So that's an example of the nested commands. And then another example of aliases is just a lot of people's dot files. And dot files are normally those directories that are hidden by default. So if we go to ls tac a, right here, you can see there's like a .bashrc, which if we normally do a ls without the tac a, it'll just show us the directory, because all of these other dot files are hidden because they're preceded by a dot. And so it's commonly referred to as dot files for people's different configuration files. And so if we just go here, there's a lot of different dot files that people just have different aliases in. So we go into like a .bashrc for Jess Fran, which she does a lot of crazy Docker stuff. You can see that there's a bunch of different things that she does. So one of them is enable color support, so ls color auto. So that's another way that you can go through and essentially find some more examples of good aliases and different aliases just by searching GitHub, and sometimes just your favorite person that does development might have a set of their dot files, so you can see how they're using it. Alright, I think that brings us to the end of our lesson, and the link to the GitHub repo will be below. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. If you have any ideas for future videos, again, reach out. I'm on Twitter, and you can always submit an issue to the GitHub repo as well if you want to. I think that's it, and so I hope you guys have a good day. Take care. Bye.